Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Introduction to Research Methodology. This is a course which is meant for MSc students as well as pre-PhD coursework students. Now, this course is important for everybody who wants to pursue research in any field, whether it is science, arts, or commerce. Now, this course is actually meant for understanding what research is all about and how does the research methodology progress. How does it help a researcher to find his or her path for doing research? There are certain things that have to be kept in mind, and in the following 20 lectures, I will be talking about. These lectures are primarily meant for understanding how a research design is made, how research objectives are designed, and how research hypothesis is proven. With these few words, we will now start the lecture number 1, Introduction to Research Methodology. A typical research methodology encompasses the foundation of research, including defining research problems, designing research studies, and collecting data, and finally analyzing the results. It also delves into qualitative and quantitative methods, measurement techniques, and ethical consideration in research. Now, what does this mean? It means that a research cannot be just done by just thinking that I want to do research. There is a process by which research is done, and that is what we are referring to as research methodology. And because research in many of the art subjects are more qualitative, whereas in the science subjects they are quantitative. Therefore, measurement techniques become very important. And ethical consideration in research is also a very integral and important part of research methodology. We cannot publish anybody else's work as our own work. The course aims to equip students with the necessary skills to conduct research, interpret findings, and communicate research effectively. So, whatever are the findings during the research plan, it skills the student to conduct the research very effectively. Then, having done the research, to interpret the results or interpret the findings is another very important aspect, and communicate research effectively. Whatever we have found out from a new work which was not done by anybody else, we need to publish it, communicate it in a very effective manner. Definition of research: understanding the purpose, objective, and types of research. Research could be very basic, it could be applied, it could be descriptive, or it could be explanatory. So these are various categories of research, and the researcher can choose any one of them or maybe two of them. The research process, the stages involved in conducting research, from problem identification to reporting the findings. So the entire process depends on several stages of conducting the research. First, a problem is identified. Then, based on that problem, a research plan or design is made. Certain objectives are written down, and then those objectives are then worked upon. And finally, whatever are the results are actually reported and inferred in a very effective manner. What is the importance of research methodology? Why is it that all the students of MSc and MA and PhD students have to do this course? Because eventually they have to be trained for doing research in the most correct manner. Research methodology refers to the systematic plan or strategy used to conduct scientific research. It includes the methods, procedures, and techniques used to collect, analyze, and interpret data. The importance of research methodology in scientific research is outlined below. So, everything has to be done in a very, very systematic way. It is not that first we think of the hypothesis and then we think of the objective and then we make a research plan. It is never in that haphazard manner. It has to be done in a very proper manner. Methods have to be identified, procedures have to be taken into consideration, techniques have to be considered very carefully. And therefore, there are certain rules which need to be followed in research methodology while doing scientific research. The first one is provides a systematic approach. Research methodology gives a structured and organized framework for conducting research. It ensures that the study follows clear steps such as defining the problem, formulating hypotheses, conducting and collecting data, analyzing results. This systematic approach improves the reliability of the research. So, unless and until research is done in this manner, it will definitely not progress in the correct manner. So, first thing is the first and the foremost problem, identification. Second is formulating how to address that problem, which is called formulating hypothesis. Then, for formulating the hypothesis, what are the methods that will be, procedures that will be adapted to generate data, collect data. Then, how to interpret the collected data is analyzing the results. And this is how it will be the most foolproof method of ensuring that research has been done in a very reliable and correct manner. Second is ensures accuracy and reliability. A proper method helps in obtaining accurate, valid, and reliable results. It minimizes errors and bias in data collection and analysis. So, if we do things in a very systematic and keeping in mind the accuracy and reliability factor, the methodology of research will be most foolproof. That means there won't be chances of making any mistake. The third point is help in selecting appropriate methods. Research methodology guides researchers in choosing the right techniques, tools, and statistical methods suitable for their research problem. Now, there are many research techniques and tools and statistical methods available. Now, which one will be most suited for a researcher that also choosing the right kind of tools is a very important factor. For example, choosing the correct analytical technique or statistical test for experimental data. We cannot do anything which is not suited. If I have a set of data generated from FTIR, I should be able to interpret it, and I don't need statistical methods for that. I just need my analytical data and the peaks what they represent for. So that is why help in selecting the most appropriate method is something to be kept in mind. Facilitates replication of research. Now, scientific research should be repeatable. A clear methodology allows other researchers to repeat the experiment and verify the results. Suppose I have published a result and it is not repeatable, which means that I have not taken into consideration the parameters which are liable to change, and therefore the replication or repeatability is jeopardized. So therefore it is very important that every experiment should be at least done 2 to 3 times to see the repeatability or replication. Fifth point, improves data analysis and interpretation. It provides proper procedures for analyzing and interpreting data, helping researchers draw meaningful conclusions. So what it means that once we have selected the problem, we have selected the method, now we have generated research analytical data. How to interpret that data? I just now gave an example of FTIR. If I am not able to interpret FTIR spectrum, then it is of no consequence. Which peak represent which functional group? So that expertise also needs to be developed, and one researcher should be able to interpret and analyze his or her data to come down to meaningful conclusions. Sixth point, saves time and resources. A well-planned methodology prevents unnecessary experiments and reduces waste of time, effort, and materials. Now, if we have meticulously planned our methodology in research, it will definitely save time, effort, materials, and everything, and we will get fruitful results. Seventh, enhances scientific credibility. Research conducted with a proper methodology is considered more credible, trustworthy, and acceptable in the scientific community, because anything which is done in a very systematic way, giving logical explanation, plausible explanation, is credible, is trustworthy. People can rely on your results if you have done it in a proper manner, and that is what is acceptable to the scientific community. Eighth point, helps achieve research objectives very clearly. It ensures that the research stays focused on its aims and objective, leading to meaningful outcome. Which means that if I have, enlisted 4 or 5 objectives in my research design, then I have a direction to work towards those objectives. And so the research remains focused towards those objectives, and hence the outcome of that becomes very meaningful. So, to conclude this part, I will say that research methodology is the backbone of scientific research. It ensures that the research process is systematic, logical, reliable, and scientifically valid, leading to accurate conclusions and advancement of knowledge. So, what it means that everything which is done in a very systematic way will obviously give an outcome which is also accurate and is definitely going to contribute to the knowledge of science. Now let us focus a little about scientific credibility. Scientific credibility refers to trustworthiness, reliability, and validity of scientific research or findings. It means that research is conducted using proper scientific methods and that the results can be trusted by the scientific community. So, science has to be done very honestly. Then only the research findings, when they are published, are considered trustworthy. People can rely on your results and they can validate your scientific research in a more systematic and authentic manner. What does scientific credibility actually mean? The meaning of scientific credibility is that scientific credibility indicates a study or research results in accurate, unbiased, and supported by evidence. Credible research follows systematic procedures and can be verified by other scientists. So, what it means that whatever research you have done, that research is first and foremostly accurately done. It is not biased by any other person's finding. You have taken pains to do that research in the most accurate manner, and therefore you are supporting it with evidences like your IR, NMR data, analytical data. Therefore, the research becomes very credible. People will believe what you have published. Key factors that ensure scientific credibility. So, how do we ensure that everything that was done in a very scientific manner and that the research that was conducted is in the most proper manner how it should be? Proper research methodology. Using appropriate research methods, experimental design, and procedures ensure reliable results, which I have just mentioned a while ago. That if we follow all the steps of research methodology properly, then obviously the results are going to be reliable, repeatable, and therefore following a good research method, making a good research plan, having good objectives, working towards those objectives, making an experimental design and procedures ensure that all your results are going to be reliable. Number 2, valid and reliable data. Data must be collected carefully using accurate instruments and correct techniques. That means even the instruments that you are going to use for generating your analytical data, they have to be validated and calibrated. Unless and until that happens, then your results may not be completely accurate. Reproducibility comes from the fact that other researchers should be able to repeat the experiment and obtain similar results. So reproducibility is something that has to be kept in mind very clearly, that whatever research I am doing, that should be possible to be repeated by others, and only when it is possible to repeat the experiment and get the similar results, that is what is meant by reproducibility or repeatability. Peer review. Research published in scientific journals is evaluated by experts before publication, which increases credibility. Now, this means that when your research is published, it should be evaluated by experts who are exponent of that subject before it is published, so that not only the correctness of the format of the research paper, but also the results are have to be verified. The credibility increases. Transparency. Researchers must clearly report their methods, data, and analysis so that others can examine them. Unless and until that is there, I cannot hide facts. Whatever method I have done, I have used, whatever data I have generated by using that analytical method, and then the interpretation and analysis of that data has to be completely transparent. Anybody and everybody can examine and check the repeatability. Ethical research practices. Now, this is a very, very important fact. Following ethical guidelines and avoiding plagiarism, fabrication, or falsification of data is very important. In today's time, we do not see many papers that are withdrawn. Why? Because of falsification or plagiarism. Because there is a very strict peer review system that has been developed. And these ethical practices have to be practiced right from the beginning. No copying of data of anybody else to show that this is my research. No copying of even text material of anybody else's research in our own research is very important to be borne in mind. Because unless and until you understand the seriousness of plagiarism or falsification or fabrication, you will not understand the importance of that. So right from the beginning, it has to be borne in mind that these practices have to be very strictly followed. Ethical research practices therefore become very important. Now let us look into systematic approach in scientific research. A systematic approach in scientific research means conducting research in a planned, organized, and step-by-step manner so that the results are reliable, logical, and scientifically valid. It ensures that the research follows a clear sequence of procedures from identifying a problem to drawing conclusion. Just a while ago, I had mentioned that it is very important to do research in a very systematic manner. Just the way if you are playing any instrument, you have to play the chords according to the sargam. Similarly, the sargam of systematic research is that you have to do step-by-step manner. You cannot do opposite direction research, that you first have some results you generated out of your imagination, and then you are going backwards to prove it, but then thinking of the research design, then thinking of the objective, and then making a research plan. It is always a plan first, then a design, then objective, then research methodology, what you are going to follow, then the hypothesis, interpretation of the data, and so on. So it has to be in that linear system, not the reverse system. And that only ensures that research is followed by a systematic approach. Steps in systematic approach for identifying a scientific research method. Identification of research problem is the first step. The first step is to identify and clearly define your research problem or question that needs to be investigated. Because unless and until you have a plan in the mind or a question, how will you proceed in research? That is the question. Studying how a particular treatment affects dye uptake in silk. Suppose this is my research problem. Now, what is that treatment? How it is going to affect the dye uptake? What is the material? What is the dye and material interaction? All these things have to be first taken into consideration, and identifying a research problem is one of the most important thing to begin with. Once having done that, then we start looking at what work has already been done. So the second step is review of literature. Researchers from previous research, books, and scientific papers to understand what has already been done on that topic. So we have to first check very carefully what research has been already done, whether this research problem has been covered by somebody else. If that is so, then this research is of no consequence. The work has already been done, and I am not going to add any new scientific knowledge unless my problem is unique or a problem which has not been attempted before. Third point, formulation of hypothesis. A hypothesis is a tentative explanation or prediction that can be tested through experiments. So, hypothesis is something that we are giving a reasonable, a scientific explanation for predicting the results that we have got during the experimentation process. For example, using a specific auxiliary may increase dye absorption. The silk fabric has a certain amount of dye absorption. Now, if an auxiliary A is used for pre-treatment of silk, it will have either no effect, or it will have some good effect, or it will have some bad effect. These are the three main possibilities. So, in order to show that the auxiliary chosen has a good effect or a bad effect, I have to have a hypothesis why I chose that auxiliary. Because my aim was that this auxiliary will actually increase the dye absorption, and that is substantiated by the results that I get out of using this auxiliary for the silk dyeing process. Fourth problem is, or fourth point is research design. Planning the methods, materials, and procedures for conducting the experiments or study. Now, unless and until there is a definite plan, what I will do after what are the materials that I will use, what are the procedures that I will be conducting, there cannot be a proper research design methodology. So this has to be done in a very meticulous manner, in a very systematic manner. And therefore, to understand the importance of research design, one has to remember that methods, materials, procedures, all have to be considered very carefully for those set of experiments that you wish to study. Data collection. Gathering relevant information or experimental results using observations, experiments, surveys, or instruments. It could be by any method, depending on what is suitable for your research methodology. It could be just, if it is a survey, then you will just see the demography of that survey and you will be able to draw an inference. If it is an experimental data, any change in color, any change in texture may give a different set of information. Similarly, whether I should use FTIR, whether I should use UV visible spectrometer, has to be chosen by the researcher, which is most relevant for his or her experiments. Sixth point, data analysis. The collected data is analyzed using statistical methods and scientific tools to interpret the results. Now, having generated the data, it is of no consequence if you are not able to interpret that data. Many a times, there were people who were doing the analysis for the researchers and they were getting the cooked result in their hands, but they were not able to interpret it. Now, that is a very sad situation. You should be able to interpret the data because you have chosen the scientific tool, and therefore what inference you want to draw from that analytical data should be known to you. Similarly, statistical method. Now, I am doing a simple experiment, and the most simplest statistical method is I take a mean of the 3 repeatable steps so that I know that the average yield of the product is this much. But if I am doing some other kind of analysis, I may have to use regression or I may have to use ANOVA. Those are different tools which are used differently. So that judgment should be there in the researcher's mind as to which tool to use when. Interpretation of results. Researchers explain what the results mean and whether the hypothesis is accepted or rejected. Now, for a researcher, the hypothesis may go in either direction. Either it will substantiate the hypothesis or it will reject the hypothesis. But nevertheless, at least there is a conclusion from the result. So, interpretation of the results becomes very important. Conclusion and reporting. The final findings are summarized and presented in research papers, report, or theses, which means that right or wrong, accepted or rejected, whatever is the conclusion must be written down. in the form of research paper or reports or thesis, because at least the next person will not do the same mistake and will know that it was a rejected hypothesis. So I should not approach this hypothesis in this manner. Maybe he can change the methodology and then approach the same hypothesis and he may get an accepted result. That's a different story altogether. But for a given set of methods, if it is accepted, even then you have to write. If it is rejected, even then you have to publish. So in summary, a systematic approach in scientific research is that it ensures that the study is logical, organized, objective, reproducible, leading to reliable and valid scientific knowledge. So, if we do everything in a very systematic manner, as what has been described to you in the last 8 points, then the research is considered to be done in the most correct manner. Now, when we look at different components of research methodology, on one side I have written the components, on the other side I have written the description. So, a research problem is very important, that I have already mentioned. The issue or question the study seeks to address. First thing, you have to have this question in mind: what research I am going to do and why? What answer am I trying to seek through my research plan? Second point is objectives, the goals or purposes of the research. Out of a research plan, what do I need to achieve? And those objectives have to be not too many, maybe 3 or 4 only, but very clearly mentioned, cut out purposes have to be written down. Third is research design, the blueprint of data collection, measurement, and analysis. What is the exact meticulous plan that I have made for conducting my research is what is research design. Data collection methods. Which are the tools and procedures that I will be using to gather information, whether I am using surveys or interviews or I am using any analytical tool, also has to be very clearly mentioned in the research plan. Sampling design. Strategy to collect and select participants or data sources. Now, I have many data together with me. I have IR data, I have UV data, I have NMR data, I have all kinds of other analytical data. I cannot mix them. I have to interpret each one of them very clearly. Coming to an inference, why I did this analysis and what is the information that I have derived from that analysis. Data analysis, whether I am using any statistical or qualitative methods to interpret the data. Limitations. I should also mention that if there are any constraints or potential weaknesses in the study. Ethical consideration, which I paid a lot of attention in the last few slides I mentioned, issues related to confidentiality, consent, and data integrity. One should not cook up data. One should not take anybody's data and claim to be your own data. And your own data, you should have the confidence that you have done everything in the most correct manner. Types of research methodology. There are many types. According to many researchers, they have, categorized it. But at least for a beginner, the research methodology could be qualitative, quantitative, or mixed method. Now, what does qualitative mean? Focuses on understanding the concept, thoughts, or experiences. For example, it could be interviews or focus groups or surveys. Quantitative could be that it involves numerical data and statistical analysis, where surveys of certain number of people, experiments done for a particular design, and which gives some quantitative figures like the yield or the dye uptake yield is better or something like that. Mixed methods could combine both qualitative and quantitative approaches like case studies, statistical analysis, and so on. So, depending on what is the desired situation in your case of research plan, one chooses the type of research methodology, whether it should be qualitative or quantitative or mixed. Now, when we try to look at research methodology, the scientific method is that the principles and characteristic of scientific inquiry, including observation, experiments, and data analysis. So, there has to be an inquiry, a question in mind. What I am looking for? Why do I need to do a research if I do not have a question in mind? Because when I have a question, I look for an answer. For looking for an answer, I then try to look for various steps. What is the method that I will use? What is the material that I will use? What is the procedure that I will use? What are the analytical data that I will be using? Theory and empiricism. Understanding the roles of theory in research and how they are tested through empirical data. So, this is a very conceptual, fundamental fact that we have to understand the theories that have been generated by other researchers in the past, and based on those theories, whether my results are befitting into that theory or not. If it is not, if it is violating, that means I have found something new that was not found by others, and therefore that empirical data comparison becomes very important. Concept, construct, definition, variable. Defining and using these key terms in research. What is my concept? How I have constructed the research plan? What is the definition that I want to make? What are the variables that I am changing? Are all now going to be designed according to the research that I have designed. Research ethics. This I will be going on emphasizing because it is very, very important for every researcher to understand and follow ethical guidelines and principles in research, including informed consent, confidentiality, and plagiarism. Because in today's time, people are just rushing for publication, but the consequence is that they are getting into deep trouble in trying to publish more and more paper. They are not following the ethical laws and guidelines. They are copying and pasting. They are taking somebody else's work, or they are making falsification, writing some data which was never done. Now, those are the kind of things a new researcher has to completely refrain from. Common research methods. are survey, experiments, case study, observation, content analysis, secondary data analysis. Now, in survey, you are just collecting data through questionnaires. In experiments, it involves controlled testing of hypotheses. In case study, it is an in-depth analysis of a single case or event. Observation, data collected through direct or participant observation. Content analysis, analyzing text, images, or media for patterns. Secondary data analysis, using existing data for a literature. So you see that everything is very, very clearly mentioned, described when to use what. You can't use wrong research methodology and get correct result. Similarly, the research designs also are of different types: descriptive, analytical, experimental, exploratory. Depending on what is your concept of research, what is your plan of research, a descriptive research design could be to describe characteristics of a population. You have a demography, you want to see how many Negroes are there, how many Asians are there, how many Americans are there, you can find out. But that is only restricted to this kind of survey, kind of research. In analytical data, you can't do that. So, in analytical data, you can test the hypothesis or compare the variables, whether I should heat it higher or I should do it at room temperature, whether I should take a particular solvent or I should take another solvent or I should take mixtures of solvent. These would come under analytical data, where you are actually conducting the analysis. Then comes experimental, to examine causal relationship under control. That means you have made a set of parameters for your experiment. Now, under those experimental conditions, you got a result A. Under different and modified research conditions, you got result B. Now, which one is better? That is what the experimental data you will interpret with. And if you are able to infer from that data, the interpretation will be correct. Then comes exploratory, to investigate new or unclear problems. Now, you have a completely new research problem. Nobody has ever attempted it. That means you are exploring it for the first time. You have no literature which can help you to design your experiments. You have no other past experiences of other researchers to fall back on. In that case, the design has to be completely your onus. How you decide as to how to tackle that research problem, that is completely your ball game. Steps in research methodology. So first, identify the research problem. Then you go through the literature very carefully so as to see whether anybody has attempted your research problem. Have they ever addressed that? If they have addressed, to what extent they have addressed? Can you modify that and do something else out of that? Unless and until you have done a thorough literature survey, you will not be able to say whether your research problem is foolproof. It could be possible that somebody else, because globally research is happening, and if research is happening all over the globe, how can you be so sure that this particular problem has not been addressed? Unless and until you have gone through the literature very carefully. Having gone through the literature very carefully and assuring that your research problem has not been attempted, you will then design or formulate your hypothesis or objective. Then select a research design, choose data collection methods, collect data, analyze data, interpret results, and then make a report of your findings. So this is the entire strategy of research methodology, how it should be done in a very broad manner. It is easy said than done, because it appears that these are just a couple of points that have to be taken into mind, but they are really very, very important. And more importantly, again, I am bringing this topic, ethical principles in research. If you are quoting somebody, or if you are using somebody's data in your literature or in your paper, then you have to take consent from the previous author. Complete confidentiality has to be done for your own data. No harm to participants should be done. That means if suppose 5 people are contributing in that paper, of everybody's name should be given there. You cannot publish just by your name. Honest reporting, that means whatever result, good or bad, acceptable or rejected, should be reported. It doesn't matter. Nobody is going to judge. What they will judge is how honest or confidential is your reporting. And most importantly, there should not be plagiarism. That means I will be dealing plagiarism as a whole lecture. What are the consequences and so on and so forth. But as of now, in the first lecture, I just want to mention that these are very, very important factors that new researchers should keep in mind, not to copy anybody's work and publish as your own work. That is what it means by plagiarism. Now, research problem formulation and research design. First is, of course, identifying and defining the research problem, formulating clear, focused, and researchable question. Literature review, understanding the importance of reviewing existing research and identifying the gaps in the knowledge. What has been done and what has not been covered. That is what you have to identify through literature review. Developing hypothesis, formulating testable predictions about relationships between variables. Research design, choosing the appropriate approach for investigating a research problem, including experimental, descriptive, and correlation designs. Sampling, selecting a representative sample from a larger population for research purposes. Data collection, choosing appropriate methods for collecting data, such as surveys, interviews, observations, and experiments. Now, data analysis and interpretation. Qualitative and quantitative research, we have already understood that very clearly, understanding the differences between these approaches and choosing the appropriate one for a research project. Measurement, understanding the concept of measurement, reliability, and validity of measures. We will do everything in detail in the coming lectures. Data analysis techniques. Learning to analyze both qualitative and quantitative data using appropriate statistical methods. That is, descriptive statistics, understanding measures of central tendency, mean, median, mode, and dispersion, that is, standard deviation. Inferential statistics, understanding methods for drawing inferences about a population based on a sample. Writing report and dissemination. Writing a research report is not like writing a story, but it is a story of its own kind. You have a research question, you make a design, you do the analysis, and you complete the story by doing that. So understanding this becomes very important. Then you have an introduction, you have methods, you have results and discussion. Representing research finding. Learning to communicate research results effectively through written reports, presentations and publication. Research communication is understanding different venues for dissemination of research, such as conferences, workshops, and journals. Intellectual property rights. This also I will be spending one full lecture on this. Understanding what is a copyright, why my idea is solely mine, and therefore I have the copyright value for it, and other related issues in research. Now, particularly in chemistry, the research methodology becomes more, specific. You have to have a special issues, hypothesis, or a gap in chemical knowledge that needs to be addressed. Clear aims like synthesizing a new compound or optimizing a reaction. Literature review should be done from good journals in the past literature, that is JACS, Chemical Communication, and many good peer-reviewed journals. Planning of synthesis, reaction conditions or analysis parameters, and so on and so forth. Method selection, choosing appropriate synthetic analytical method or computational methods. Gathering the data for experimental instruments or simulation, using tools like spectroscopy, chromatography, statistics, and finally, conclusion from the interpretation of findings in relation to the objectives and hypotheses that were set up. So, types of research could be pure chemistry research, could be applied chemistry research, could be analytical chemistry research, could be computational research, could be green chemistry. So within chemistry, you have so many different types of research that can be done. And each one has a different treatise altogether. In pure chemistry, you look at the fundamentals of understanding a chemical system. In applied, you see the practical application and product development. In analytical, you identify and quantify the substances. In computational, you do simulation and modeling to see whether these molecules will react or will not react. And in green chemistry, you are actually looking at eco-friendly synthesis and processes. Common techniques that are used in chemical research are: in synthesis, you have reflux, microwave, photochemical reactions. In characterizations, you have FTIR, NMR, UV, mass, XRD, SEM, TGA, DSC. In separation or analysis, you have HPLC, GC, TLC, chromatography, column chromatography, ion exchange. In computational, you have Gaussian, ORCA, Spartan, ChemDraw, ChemSketch, etc. And in quantitative methods, you have titration, spectrophotometric analysis, and gravimetric analysis. So the experimental flow actually is like this. define a research question, do research literature survey, hypothesis, formulation, design of experiments, safety assessment, lab work and observations, instrumental analysis, data interpretation, reproducibility check, and reporting documentation like lab notebook, thesis, or paper. When we look at research data analysis tool, we have Origin or Excel, we have ChemDraw or Markvin Sketch, we have software like Mesret, Nova, TopSpin, and we have statistical software like SPSS or R. Now these we will talk in details a little later. Ethical and safety considerations are very important to follow good laboratory practices, ensure proper waste disposal, avoid data manipulation, cite all sources and acknowledge contributions, adhere to institutional ethical clearance or biological or toxicological work. So a research thesis structure is title, abstract, introduction, experimental section, results and discussion, conclusion and references. Publication in peer-reviewed journals such as JACS, Angewandte Chemie, Chemistry, European Journal, etc., etc. One should aim to always target good journals so that your work is viewed by many people. The actual methods, we can go through it sometimes in the next few lectures. Quickly now, I come to the conclusion that in conclusion, the research methodology forms the foundation of any scientific investigation, ensuring that the study is conducted in a systematic, reliable, and reproducible manner. In chemistry, research, the methodology is particularly critical as it integrates or blends theoretical planning, experimental execution, and analytical precision. Ultimately, a well-structured methodology allows for an effective testing of hypotheses, validation of results, and contribution to scientific knowledge, whether through the development of new products, compounds, materials, processes, or analytical techniques. So with this, we have come to an end of this lecture. Thank you.